Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the Volpe Bazzo Report. I'm your co-host, Dominic Volpe. With me, Andy Bazzo, to my right.
How are you, Dominic?
How are you?
I see we're back another show. And this is 3 in a row. We're having a record.
That's right, that's right. And our special guest tonight, City Council returning, okay, Councilwoman Mary Beth McGowan.
Thank you,
aboard.
fellas.
How are you, Mary
Very
Beth?
good, very good, very good.
Okay, and I want to remind everybody you can find my column every week in the Yorktown News. So whatever you missed the show, you can always see what I got to say in print. Mary Beth, are you running for office?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm announcing it here.
You're announcing it here.
I promised I'd be back. Yes,
Yes.
I've been asked, and we have been endorsed by the Democrats in Peekskill.
Did you get any of the other lines?
Currently, I believe it came out yesterday or the day before that we did get the endorsement from the Independent Party.
What about working families?
We have gone for interviews, and I have not heard anything back from them yet. So we'll see where that goes.
So you got your track shoes on for knocking on doors.
Yes, I'm all ready to knock.
Now, you know my fellow co-host, my friend, your friend.
Yes.
He's running for office too.
Yes.
Well, more importantly, though, we're 2 months ago you were in front of us, and we said then you were running. So, and you said no, we're contemplating.
I'm gonna.
But you would accept it.
I said that if I was asked, I would accept, and I had been asked, and the Peekskill Democratic Committee endorsed me. So
Yeah, but
I
there's
asked
nobody
if I would
here.
run.
There's nobody here. We knew.
Well, I appreciate the confidence that both of you had in me, but again, it was never official until somebody asked.
Right now, you also know Dominic's running for office.
Yes, I do.
Now,
Congratulations.
you have some news since the last time we did our show.
Yes, as a matter of fact,
You got a secondary line.
a secondary line,
Which is?
the Independence Party has
You
already
and
supported
Brian.
me and Brian, my running mate. We were not part of the establishment. We were considered the insurgents. But it shows you that, if you give the right message, if you have the right agenda and everything, everybody will start to sign
Now,
up.
what about working families?
Working
like
family,
I asked Mary.
as Mary Beth just mentioned, we've also interviewed with them. Signs are looking good, so we'll just have to wait on
No,
it.
I leave out the conservatives only for a reason, because I know if you seek the working families, it's very tough to seek the conservative, and vice versa.
Right.
Because they really are antithetical to each other.
Correct.
And from one of the guys in Yorktown that interviewed with the conservatives, they asked him point blank, if we give you are you going to seek the working families? And he had to say no.
Right.
Because they say you can't do this.
Right.
And-
They're two polar opposites.
Right.
Yes.
So that's why I'm not insulting the conservatives, just that
Yeah.
it would make you look ridiculous. So you're a liberal conservative. Let's see how this works. Let's see how this works. Now we have on top of the agenda, and I've had this in my blog, and Bruce the blog did this, and they did a TV show on this and all this. The Juneteenth Festival. Number one, when is it and what is it? Because the whole area that watches this show will be able to come to Peekskill for
Absolutely, it's going to be on June 15th,
which is a
Saturday.
okay.
It first starts off with a parade that will begin at, if I'm correct, 2:00.
Where?
It'll start at Park Street and Broad.
Okay.
It'll go down Main Street, then it will make a left on Division, a right on South, and then it'll make another left, and it'll go up past Wesley Hall and your dry cleaners, and it'll end up at the...
You have a dry cleaner?
And it will end up at Smith. That will be the end of the parade. And then for the rest of the day, from 4 to 8 or so, there are festivities down at the riverfront, which will include entertainment all day, vendors.
Now, I've seen they've done a lot of work down at the riverfront in the last year. They've cleaned, you got a fireman's memorial down there now that's totally
beautiful.
open. I've seen they've done some tree planting, some real nice landscaping. You guys have been busy on that riverfront getting it ready for this season.
Yes, we are. And again, we have also, there's been an addition to the park, which we call
That's what I wanted.
Peekskill Landing.
Right, because I've seen that when you're coming into Peekskill before the leaves came on the
Yep.
tree, you could see it coming down Route 9.
It is open now. Although
Where is
there's a
it
lot
for the out-of-towners?
It's to the north of the riverfront green. So if you went through.
So if you cross the tracks, you park in the lot.
And if you went north of the parking lot, you'll see an entrance. It'll be a pathway that you can go into this other part of the park, which has
opens
been
up.
expanded. Right, it's a little through a I don't know, maybe 12-foot pathway that you can get through. And right now we are in the process of sending out construction documents for them to continue to do renovations to it, but it is open now and you could get it. They've redone the front of the river with wrap and a bunch of things to expand the riverfront.
Now I
green
got to
into
ask you on a
East
personal
Atlantic.
level: is Stella going to be running on Juneteenth?
Stella will be in the
Stella's
parade.
the trolley that Peekskill has. That
Peekskill
doesn't
trolley.
right, the Peekskill trolley. They named it Stella. It is an old what?
It's an old trolley.
Right, it's
it
an old
came from
trolley.
Seattle, Washington, quite frankly. So it took quite a journey to get here. Leslie Masson refinished it and put it back on the road, and she does various tours.
Right,
She
but
does
and I'm
wedding
just
and
saying, are they
country.
going to be doing the tours on the Juneteenth?
She will be involved in the parade. She will be picking up the seniors from
That's what I mean, this
various
is-
buildings so they can participate in the parade. Then they will be sort of pulling over towards the end so that the seniors can
That's
actually
why I
see
thought
the
that
parade.
trolley was a good idea, and I mean this sincerely in the respect that the seniors can now get around without having to either get a cab or walk and all, especially on a warm day like
Well,
that.
again, and it allows the seniors to participate. She's happy to volunteer the trolley at that point and her driver and time to do
Well,
that.
that's an important word.
Yes.
You know, you give back to the community that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
Dominic knows very well from the homeless shelter that you're still
Correct.
part of.
Yep, GMP.
And the other, that reminds you, because both of this, I saw this in one of the online papers. You're changing the zoning for the artist district.
We have.
Have you done this, or is it still only a proposal?
We have not changed it yet, but we are in discussions. Again, the BID, which is the Business Improvement District, has begun to do studies and investigate what they think would be helpful in changing some zoning rules down in the downtown.
Because right now it could only be artists.
Correct.
Yes.
What is the objective, and what would be your objective of this discussion?
Part of it is to find, to expand who can live in the downtown so it becomes
And how do you feel about
more.
that?
I think it's a very positive direction. I think that we do have to find a balance. I think that the BID has done a really nice white paper and came to the council and presented it. They are also going around to try to sort of get a really good audit of the buildings that are the space and the buildings that are currently vacant or that have spaces that people might be interested in. And I think all of the council, it looks in a positive direction to maybe change some zoning rules so that we can expand the people who live downtown, which would, again,
Maybe it's time.
Yeah,
It's time,
right.
because, you
Would
know,
you say as a landlord, are the landlords complaining that because it's limited to an artist district, that they can only rent to artists? Maybe there's not enough of them to
Well,
go
I think
around,
that's
in a
part of
sense?
it. I think that there are also, I think when you look at somebody who, if you buy a building and you renovate it, and even if you, as the landlord or the owner of that building, want to even move in, right? You can't.
Right.
So I think that we realize that there are some restrictions that we need to look at,
I personally think you also reached a tipping point that you've pretty much gone as far as you're going to go with the limit. Now you do have to expand, because especially in this economy, you can't just limit things now. People have to be able to survive. And businesses at least don't increase the school district burden. They pay to this, but they don't increase the burden to this. Is what Yorktown is finally learning.
And I think it's really important that the community itself, that before we do a lot of changes to the zoning, that we get the community to buy into the changes that we want to put forth. I can see where the artists might be a little concerned, and in many other places where artists have come, assisted in revitalizing a downtown, then once it gets revitalized, artists then somehow sort of get moved out. And I think that there are some concerns on
You need
artists.
to protect them.
And we need to look at both sides, and we need to make sure
Right,
that
you don't
everybody...
want to have what happened in Soho happen in
Exactly,
Peekskill.
exactly. So I think that that's what we're really talking about and discussing as a
Well,
council, to
being
make
that
sure we
it's-
go in the right direction.
Well, I think it's a city that is a small city compared to like Yonkers and all that, can actually control something like that and have a little where you can protect the rights of everybody. It's not going to be so windy and difficult.
Right, and how we're looking at that is, there's discussions about the percentage of what can or what should still remain open and available
In
to
other
the
words,
artist
if you've
community.
got a rental, let's say you've got a rental unit, there's 4 rental units. It's not where you say you open it up 100% to anybody.
Exactly.
You could say 50% now is deemed artist, and therefore there's the protection.
Right. So
there
we're
for
always
it.
looking to be able to keep a certain, certain spaces. There should be a percentage,
Now, we
and I
were
think
ta-
that's really what the
We
discussion
were
is in trying to
talking. We
find
were
a balance.
talking off camera. I want to get a couple of things out. Number one, we just had the diner open down at the train station.
The Yellow Brick Cafe.
Oh yes, food. That I ate there. The hamburgers are 100% meat, like Five Guys. There's no filler.
Nope.
And their French fries, like Five Guys, are real French fries, not frozen. I think these guys really got a shot at it because they're not. I don't know if you ever watch Restaurant Impossible when Robert Irving says frozen, 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 garbage, no flavor.
I believe nothing is frozen down there.
Right.
I think it's fresh every day.
Right, I don't think Robert Irvine had to visit them to tell them this. So these guys have got a shot. But I say this for a reason, because I believe people bring people. And you were saying that rumors are that the MTA may have found a tenant. Rumors.
Yes, there is,
only.
right. I mean, the MTA apparently has
And the old Kelly's folks.
has
the old
sort of looked at and had sent out an RFP again
Right.
for people, tenants in there, and I think that they apparently got one that they were interested in, but I think it still has to go through a process
yeah.
of board approval.
Yes.
And it is, from a city standpoint, no one has divulged who they think it is, so I don't know who it is or what it is, but
So
I think it's still through the process, but I believe in the next month or so.
But the limbo
there should
is
be
over
word.
finally.
It-
the
it
work
is
that
my
they were doing,
understanding.
the work they
It
were
is
doing on the
absolutely-
building is done, and now it's time to start putting.
Yes,
the
and
body.
I'm going to say this with a little caveat is, about a year or so ago, there was supposed to be somebody that was interested in it as well, and it fell through. So
right.
it's
Until it's
still
signed,
going on
sealed,
until
yes.
it's announced by the MTA.
Well, I just think the
I sort of have,
Right. Well, the problem with the MTA, they think they're a tavern on the green and not riverfront green, and until they refocus their efforts to, like, you're a landlord, you know this. You got to deal with the rents that people in the area you're
Right,
at. You
right.
can't charge Yorktown rent.
Yeah, I think some of their rentals was unrealistic, and that's why they've lost probably a lot of possible people.
But the
well,
other
and I
thing
think
is-
they also did. They did. I think they when the
Kelly's.
again when a year and a half ago when the other sort of
Oh, the
rumor
one-
fell
potential,
through.
yeah.
I think they went back and they revisited that and they did some improvements on the building themselves. They repainted.
They had
it,
no
did it.
choice.
So they sort of spruced the building up a bit. I mean I don't know what the
No,
inside
but
looks
no
like.
matter
but
what the tenant that goes in, part of the deal is they've got to maintain where the old depot part was.
it is my understanding that they have to maintain. They have to make sure that it's open for operations at a reasonable.
Right. That's going to be no matter who goes in there.
Yes. Yes.
So for the commuters, eventually this will be relief for where they can get out of the rain without having to climb the steps to do it.
And again, it is an asset to the city of Peekskill. Not every community has an actual depot.
Depot,
In
in a
many
sense,
cases, it's just sort of a little window that you can buy tickets at. So hopefully the right establishment will move
Now,
in and
again,
it will.
staying at the train station, do have a little vacant store that was right across from the new diner, and you're telling me that may have a tenant.
Yes, it's sort of on the corner
Right at the
across
corner
from
of
the
Hudson
shoe
and
man,
Water, right at the
across
corner.
from the shoe man and Taramina's. There was someone who was very interested and came to the city a year or so ago and was getting prepared to open up a restaurant there. The hurricane came and it sort of put them, set them back a bit.
Not the only one.
Yeah, so I think he has asked for an extension. So hopefully he'll get underway somewhere in 2014.
So we're looking at maybe a restaurant.
Yes, it's my understanding it will be a restaurant.
Oh, that'd be good. People bring people like
Just
I said.
getting back though to the diner there, I spoke to one of the people who worked there as well as the manager. She said that they've only had what's considered a soft opening, and she says some days on like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, she says there's people out the door.
There is. I worked
they're
on
doing they're doing very good. So if anybody out there does want something like if you want to go back to like old Peekskill the way it used to be, because that was an old like soda fountain shop.
And that's and I think that's really
and
what
they've captured
that
that
they
thing,
have.
and it's really it's fabulous inside.
Now, continue. I see you've made improvements at the crosswalk on Nelson between the garage and the library.
Yes, we've several things.
For safety features.
Several things started that. One absolutely were safety features. It is a place where there's major crossings, a lot of seniors, a lot of.
Well, you got 901 Main right there.
And no matter what the city seemed to do, it was never enough to make it really safe. The crosswalk went in, we had stop signs, people still, it was a very
But they
difficult
were plastic,
corner.
They were temporary in
Very,
nature.
very difficult to make it. So what sort of pushed this forward was we were also, the library got grant money for additional parking, so we had done, they came back with some ideas to add additional parking in front of the library and to change the plaza a little bit. And it was a little too much to stick in one place. So they've added more library parking across the street into what you would call the City Hall parking lot to accommodate the library parking. And then we have redone again the center in front of the library.
With a post there. So
post a little.
I've always been convinced in Peekskill stop signs are only suggestions; they're not mandatory. Now if they don't stop, they're going to run into a post.
And again, the engineers when they came back, they said, you have plenty of room, but when you put an island someplace, it gives the driver the thought that there's not enough room, which automatically slows down traffic. It's a place where actually if you got halfway across the street, you can rest and then continue on across the street.
Yeah, for the next flow of traffic.
So I think it's a nice improvement. They've also, one thing that we have discussed a long time ago to sort of stick on the yellow brick road theme and
I
Wizard
saw
of
that.
Oz.
Yeah.
We are now, any place that we put crosswalks in, we're going to try to do yellow bricks so we can have that sort of as
As
a
long as you
thing.
don't make us drive yellow cabs, I'd appreciate it.
No, you can still have the cab, whatever color you want.
Thanks. Now, listen, I brought up earlier that both of you were running for office. And when I talked with Don, I interviewed him the last show, talked about his relationship with the people in the neighboring towns. And so now you can attest that both, because there are mutual things that involve both Cortland and Peekskill.
Yes.
Watershed issues and like the methadone clinic involved both of you guys.
The sewer district.
Sewer districts, right. So what I'm trying to say for both your sakes, to have people that know each other, not just what they read about in the papers, but on a more personal level, on a human level, I think it's good for both towns to have this on their boards.
I would agree, and I think that, and I don't, I think that it is important. Towns that are close to another or border one another do have many common issues, and it is, when you look at going to the county or going to other levels, to sort of to have a closer relationship with bordering cities and towns, I think.
Yeah,
is
but
very
having
important.
somebody like even on the Cortland board that has a business in Peekskill.
Yes, no, I think.
He would be familiar with the Peekskill side of an issue even before.
Well, the other side of it is there's plenty of times where there are what they call IMAs, which are intermunicipal agreements.
Right.
Where there's shared services. And especially in the day and age where we're trying to find how do you stretch the dollar to give you $2 or $3, we've come to the day and age now where Cortland and Peekskill, or Cortland or Buchanan, or Peekskill or Buchanan and Peekskill and Croton, for that matter, have to work together more and more and more to really to save to stretch dollars.
But what I look at is the knowledge of a person. You've got a 4-year record, and Dominic's been in this town for 43 years. With the business.
Absolutely.
And so you say, okay, these people know what they're talking about. They're not You know, you have an innate to the knowledge that they have. So you don't have to get to know each other before you handle a mutual
Yeah,
issue.
the barrier's already broken
right,
in that
Right.
sense.
and I think it's very important, especially when you bring up that I am, this will be my second term, but I am also, I've lived in Peekskill for 18 years versus Dominic, who's grown up and born and bred here. So I think there is a building of a relationship. I think that it helps that there
I think
are
it helps
resources that I can
everybody.
go back.
I
Absolutely.
think it helps everybody. I mean, even in Yorktown, Dominic's got good relationship with sitting members on the board. See, that's the ideal thing about where Dominic is running. He's run by Yorktown and Peekskill, and he's got relationships because of business, because of other reasons, with members of both boards. You've already broken the ground.
Right.
Well, and I think, he also has, what is also an advantage is he also understands those communities and the residents in those communities. So it's important from my standpoint, he already starts off, ahead of the game because these are people that he has dealt with
Okay,
for a
now
very
the
long
power-
time,
Okay.
talking to them and dealing with them
Now
on a
you guys
day-to-day
made the
basis.
decision on the Paramount.
Yes, that's very
Who's got
exciting.
that now?
Red House has that. It is now reopened.
Right, because we're taping here on June 5th, and they had a thing a couple of things already.
They had two things already. They were the original opening was, I want to say, the Graymore
Right.
Sisters had a
Correct.
benefit concert there to
Correct,
raise
but
some
they
money
also
for them.
had this thing that was
They had the
bus
high
load of
school. They had the Metro. I think it's the Metro Awards, which are the high school drama
Right,
awards.
and that
It's
drew
sort of-
people from everywhere.
Yes.
Again, Peekskill being that is a magnet that helps all business.
Regretfully, I couldn't go because we had a council meeting, but I heard that there were people standing outside waiting online,
Yes,
so that's
yes.
always
Well,
positive.
back up though a second though, because the conventional wisdom for the past, let's say, 3-4 months had been that the rumor on the street was that the Tarrytown house was that they were going to be the one that was going to take over the Paramount. What was the difference in your mind that made? Why did the city of Peekskill decide to go with the group that did take over? Was it their interview? Was it their plan, their agenda? What? Because everybody, it was almost like a done deal on the street.
Who offered the better deal to Peekskill? Well, I mean, what was the deal breaker? Because you were saying behind the scenes what Tarrytown only wanted.
Again, I think that, from my perspective, the Red House came with several things that were a positive. First, they were the only one that presented, in my opinion, a vision of being able to combine a nonprofit and profit together, which meant it would continue to have community theater and community stuff that would allow, which is really the vision of, part and parcel of the historic theater.
Well, one of your council,
But
one
also-
second, but one of your councilmates running because this was good because they would understand the issues, Andy Torres. And he works with so to understand
Yes.
the profit-nonprofit relationship, it's not like it's foreign ground for either you or Andy or somebody like that.
No, and what it would do is allow them to get through the profit part, be able to get grants and a bunch of other things, but also have a for-profit arm, which would be able to over time make money, which is a good thing for everybody and the economy, and keep it open. And at the same time, they offered the city the best deal in their they will be paying rent. We get a percentage of the ticket sales on their
Get a
for-profit.
percentage of the gate,
Yes, and anything else that gets sold.
and you're
So-
only paying 6 months worth of the electricity.
Yes, the
That's
agreement
it.
is just for 6 months. Then they'll be pretty self-sufficient, and hopefully,
So you think it was they had a better vision going forward, going for the next 5 years,
Yes,
10 years,
yes.
whereas Tarrytown kind of gave you was their interview good or was it
their
not good?
interview was fine. And again, I think that it was, I appreciate them throwing their hat into the ring.
Right.
But I think, my vision is big, and I think that the Red House had the biggest vision.
Are you taking more, would you say this, are you taking more of a gamble on Red House, but you think overall they still present the vision that the city council is looking for, though?
I think it may be a little bit of. I wouldn't say that it's any riskier than any place else. I mean, you got to look at the Tarrytown, the Paramount originally, right? I'm going to get the same thing that I had, which wasn't successful. This was a vision that was different.
Right.
It
You
was.
knew one thing didn't work, so you might as well try something and see if it works. But you already knew the one thing didn't work.
Right. I mean, and in fairness, I realize, there are lots of struggles that nonprofits have. And I think that this was a vision that sort of combined the both. And I'm real excited that it's moving
Now
forward.
we're running
So it was a comfortable feel at that point.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now we're running out of time, Mary. One thing give me one big thing you want to accomplish in the next 4 years.
Interesting. I want a lot of the projects to get the shovels in the ground and actually going. And I suspect that will happen really begin to happen over the next year.
Is there anything you could do
The
to
firehouse,
streamline?
the Peekskill Landing, lots of different things that have been in the
Is
works.
there anything you could do as a council, like they're trying to do in Yorktown, streamline the process?
I think we do streamline the process. I think some of it is just no matter how no matter how much we streamline the process,
It just
there
takes
is a
time.
process.
Right, there's still a
Especially applying for grant monies or whatever
Yes,
the case.
yes.
So you that's going to be, because let's say you don't ever want to run again. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that that I leave Peekskill better than when I started. I think we've already accomplished
I think you've
some
done
of
that.
that.
I think you've done that. I just hope one day in the future you'll run for mayor before you decide you don't want to run for office ever again.
Well, let me one election at a time. And right now, again, it's still early. We have
I'm
lots
not
of business.
talking about this year.
We have lots
No
of business
threat,
to
Mary.
do
No-
in the
no
city of
threat,
Peekskill.
Mary. No threat to you,
We have
Mary.
lots of work to do in the city of
But I've
Peekskill,
known
and
you
election is
personally.
in November.
I've known you personally, and you would make a great executive.
Well, thank you very much. I take that as a great compliment.
And on
thank
that note,
This is what I say. What say you?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Congratulations.
And now
Thank
you
you.
will be back again.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is fun, isn't it?
It is. This is a nice time.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you,
And-
fellas.
And Dominic.
And good luck.
thank you. Likewise.
Right, and Dominic, you right now. You both are out collecting
We're
signatures.
collecting
But this show
signatures.
is for the next
if
few
we show up
weeks.
at your front doorstep, just sign
Right, you're
our
not
petitions.
stalking. You're collecting signatures, right? We're
And
not stalking.
And one last shout out to Dave Paganelli, a councilman out in Yorktown. I hope you feel better. I understand you've had a couple of health issues, and we hope the best for you. So,
And who's your running mate again?
Brian Pugh from Village of Croton.
And I heard he gave you a lot of family help at the what
Yes,
was going on down
Summerfest in
in
Croton.
Summerfest in
Yes,
Croton.
we had a great time all day.
Yeah, you got
was a
to
nice
meet the
time.
family. So,
All right.
I don't know what's going on, but we'll continue talking.
Yeah, just make it look good.
Yeah, no, it's all right.